And I want it that way.
Tell me why.
Ain't nothing but a heartache. Tell me why. I was in the teacher's lounge yesterday.
The Fuck Palace, please call it what it is.
And this guy, this teacher Ben in the Fuck Palace, he just started singing. He just started singing "You're the Inspiration" by Chicago.
Oh my god, I love that song.
Yeah, and I was like, ooh, yes. Oh, that song is always nice to listen to.
In my life, you're the inspiration.
Yes.
Oh my god, I love it.
That's the karaoke standard.
Yep.
That's what
there.
I'm going to be singing when I do it.
Certainly up there.
And then you get to flex the pipes when you hit that key change too.
Oh, when you love somebody, do
Yes.
enough time.
Always on my mind.
Love somebody, always on my. I know that song from Elite Beat Agents, the Nintendo DS game.
I know it from I don't know, just having white parents. I guess.
From having white parents, you said? You're in trouble.
Yeah, I'm in trouble. Uh-oh. I'm going to the principal's office for that one.
Who are you? Matthew Gideon, Captain, attached to the Earth Alliance starship Excalibur. What do you want? To find a cure to the Drakh plague before it wipes out all life on Earth. Where are you going? Anywhere I have to. Who do you serve, and who do you trust?
For no more the heat o' the sun by William Shakespeare. Fear no more the heat o' the sun, nor the furious winter's rages. Thou thy worldly task hast done. Home art gone, and taken thy wages. Golden lads and girls all must, as chimney sweepers, come to dust. Hello and welcome to Chats, the television podcast, season 6.5. Chatzylon 5 presents Crusade Chats. My name is Alan. Hello everyone. How are you? I'm doing well. And her name was Isabel, and she was the best of us. Hello, Isabel.
Was ever a woman in this humor wooed?
What?
Was ever a woman in this humor won?
What? Huh?
I'll
Can you turn your mic up? Hello?
have her, but I will not keep her long. What?
Who's man? Who's this man?
What? I, who in the... Oh, no. Who, oh God, what's the next part? Who took her in her heart's extremest hate, with curses in her mouth, tears in her eyes, the bleeding witness of her hatred by. And me, nothing to back my suit at all, but the plain devil in dissembling looks, and yet to win her all the world to nothing.
Wow.
Ha!
Wow. Whoa.
I'll have her, but I will not keep her long. I mixed it up. Hey, what's up? It's
Hi.
Richard III,
Hello,
but
Magellan.
I got it out of order.
Speaking of getting things out of order, we're here to talk about Crusade. Oh my God.
We did it. We did a crusade.
A crusade against good TV. No, folks, it's episode 69 of Chatzylon 5. Did you catch that? It is nice.
It is nice.
It is
That's
nice.
why we're starting it in such a nice way. Nice. Oh, yes.
Can you believe this broken, busted pod is going to be episode 69? That sucks, man.
We've never had a
Started.
69 before.
Nope, this is the first and probably one of the rare 69.
Yeah, we've also never had an episode 69 either. Okay. All right. I'll leave.
Oh my God, you nasty man.
Yeah, it's appropriate for Crusade, huh?
To be weirdly inappropriately horny.
Yep.
Yeah. I think that's appropriately horny, but that's neither here nor there. What is here is Magellan and Alan talking about television shows like we do every week. We're going to mix things up even more than usual, though, folks, because Our original plan was to discuss Visitors from Down the Street and The Well of Forever this week, but our guest for Visitors from Down the Street had to reschedule, so instead, we're going to be doing that one next week. And this week, we're going to just be talking about The Well of Forever, which is JMS Order Episode 6. It's broadcast Episode 3.
Mm-hmm.
It's on Disc 1 in case there weren't more numbers that you needed in your life. If you have the DVDs, that is. And The Well of Forever, let's get right into it. It was written by Fiona Avery. It was directed by Janet Greek. It aired June 23rd, 1999. I was almost 5 years old. And it takes place in July of 67. Marjorie, what happened in this episode?
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to tell you that in this episode, Galen reunites with an old friend when... Oh, wait. Yes? Galen reunites with an old friend when Excalibur comes to the aid of an Earth force... Is this the right summary? This is the summary from last week.
Did Alan not move the summary over?
This summary has not been updated.
This episode can't be any more broco. How do I find the summary for The Well of Forever? Magellan, tell me what happened in The Well of Forever. Don't tell me what happened in the last one that I can't remember.
Oh my goodness.
Here it is. I'm pulling it, finding it for you.
Thank you.
It's coming.
I'll vamp by doing more monologues.
Beautiful.
Romeo.
And that's back. Go ahead.
Now is the winter. Most of the ones I know are from Richard III. Yeah. Now is the winter of our episode summary, made glorious sense by Galen, a technomage who uses advanced technology in magical ways, maybe going too far. Darina Nafil questions the technomage's motives when he spearheads a risky expedition to a hyperspace realm. Alan?
Yeah?
Alan?
Yes?
What did you think of The Well of Forever?
Buppy.
Yep.
Can I have Magellan back right away?
I'm here. I read the room. I'm done.
Yeah. Well, we are going to bring up Shakespeare more, so that guy might need to come back.
He will.
Because Galen quotes Cymbeline, I believe it's called, in this episode.
It certainly
the Shakespeare play.
Cymbeline.
Is it? Okay, great. Cool. I love this. I think this is a really cool episode of the show. I almost said I love it. It's got some issues. It's a little wonky. Effects wise, it's still hot doo-doo. Some of the plot lines feel only half resolved because they're like a good amount of setup. I actually think that this is one of the ones though where the chronology that we're going by from the JMS order actually fit, because it was in Visitors from Down the Street that John Matheson did some scanning that he wasn't exactly supposed to do, and so it's in this episode that he's on a sort of trial from Mr. Jones, from the Bureau of Telepath Integration, which is a great name for a bureau.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, I liked seeing more Matheson stuff. I always like that. I liked all of the Gideon scenes. He's rocking the short sleeves this episode. It feels like the outfits, like the show, is just kind of a farce of itself sometimes. Because in one episode he's in short sleeves and Darina's got completely different hair, and then another one he's got like a crisp black space suit, and it just there's no consistency to it, which is fine. It's a good time. And I think this was a really fun episode for Galen too, who we learned more about his past and his whole situation. So I'm sure in future seasons they're gonna flesh out this Galen stuff in really cool ways. But for now it's kind of like, oh, he had a lady friend. That's awesome. What about you? What did you think?
Yeah, I think that this episode, I expected it to be like not much because it's. I don't know. It was the second one we watched for this week, and it just seemed like kind of a random throwaway plot, and it is. But I ended up enjoying it. I love any sort of Matheson stuff we get, because his character feels, out of all the characters, the most tied to like the B5 universe.
Right, even just in being a telepath. Yeah.
Yeah, and we learn about the aftermath of a lot of the telepath stuff that we saw through him. And so more than the other characters, I feel like he's continuing things that were from the show. Whereas like the Drock plague, we've talked about this, is not at all tied to the Drock as we understood them. It's just like a thing we got to solve that could have been done by anybody. So Gideon to me doesn't really feel like a B5e character. I like him, but Matheson, whenever we get plots centered around him, that feels very satisfying. And then, yeah, I was happy to see Galen. I was excited.
Yes, Queen.
Peter Woodward. It's Peter Woodward. He's really won me over. He's so charming and funny, and it's just fun to watch him. And he makes me forget that technomages are stupid and dumb.
Right. Well, I think part of that is the fact that his character is not centered around his powers. It's centered around who he is as a character, who he cares about, what matters to him, what is his question and answer, which is something that they get into with all of the major cast this episode. I actually thought it was funny that, like, the way, this is where I was like, this must have been the scene that ingratiated Galen to Magellan, was they're all talking at like a board meeting, which again, Gideon has this meeting in his nice tight short sleeve shirt. Galen brings this like rainbow rock, which it's just like, imagine being friends with Galen and you're like, all right, guys, let's talk about TPS reports. And he's like, guys, I brought a magical rainbow rock and it tells us where the secret hyperspace dimension that'll unlock all of our dreams and secrets is. And you're like, Galen, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, right.
I just refilled the coffee. Like, are you kidding me, dude? Okay, fine. And so in this moment, I was like, okay, I mean, this is charming, and I like Galen. He's telling them about the Well of Forever. And the idea is that it draws its essence from hyperspace. Obviously, we get Darina is hesitant about this because her people, they say, don't like things that are neither here nor there. So crossroads, bridges, that sort of thing. They hate that stuff, so she doesn't trust it. And so they would never go to those places. And then we get a really good Max Eilerson line, who's also here. This is one of the rare moments where the entire ensemble is like together and actually talking.
Yeah,
which I
wish we got more of those.
Truly wish we got any of them.
Right.
She's like, oh, all these places like fields and bridges and crossroads. And then Max is like, where do you guys go on vacation? Another part of the room. And it's like, Max!
It sort of like was cut in a bit of a static way, so that the pacing of that joke was off. But anytime that Max gets to be just a jerk, I love it.
You must have loved the back end of this episode, though. Then,
yeah, I wish we got more Max, to be honest.
Yeah, it's a little hasty in the back end. Is part of the problem.
Yeah. I want there to be a plot that is like about him.
Yeah,
and I don't think we're ever gonna get it.
Certainly not.
But
very unlikely. But I also thought we weren't going to get Matheson stuff, and we got 2 episodes full jam-packed with Matheson.
True. That's true.
You never know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I also watched the commentary to this, by the way.
Yeah, I was about to say, tell me about this commentary. Yeah. I wasn't able to watch it because we watched these on a tight schedule.
I'll just kind of pepper in some stuff that I heard from the commentary as we go. But one of the first things that... so it's on the commentary is Carrie Dobro, Peter Woodward, Janet Greek, who directed the episode, and Fiona Avery, who wrote it. And it's a really fun commentary. It's not like you're
not getting some like brilliant insight out of it.
Well, actually, there is a lot of interesting insight, but it's like that commentary alone is not something I could use to sell you on purchasing the Crusade DVDs. You should just do that for the love of Crusade. But it was fun listening to a commentary. It kind of makes me wish that we had like thought to watch commentary episodes of other shows that we've done. Because I feel like I learned a lot, and I ended up like being really fond of this episode. So it's hard for me to like uncover my unbiased thoughts about it, because it's sort of filtered through like, oh, these nice people are hanging out in a room and talking about their art and stuff. But it does
podcast.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's like a podcast. I guess that's true. That's why I liked it. But it does start with Carrie Dobro talking about how Woodward is British and like maybe immigration didn't want him to come here. And her doing a British accent. It's like,
oh, Carrie. Oh, I got to hear that.
yeah, she's a card. She's a real card. And then one of the next things that happens is Peter Woodward does gush about just how like ripped Daniel Day Kim is and how great his body is.
You know, I did when you texted me that, or I saw that you posted it in your notes rather. I did Google Peter Woodward gay, and I didn't get anything because he's not very prolific anyways, so there isn't like a lot of writing about him, but I mean, I can hope.
Right. And yeah, he was like, I'm surprised he didn't do more shirtless scenes because he's got a 6-pack, like a real 6-pack or whatever he said. But
Peter,
it was charming. And then the premise, I learned Fiona Avery talked about the writing and the pitching of the episode to JMS, and she talked about how where this episode comes from is some speculation that people had when B5 was airing about like hyperspace and do things live in hyperspace and all these other questions about it. So she was like, I wanted to write an episode about hyperspace where we just got really lost and like weird stuff happened.
Man, the beautiful comedic timing of this was I read that part of your notes. Literally the next scene is the hyperspace tentacle being like, having sex with the Excalibur. It's like, I really want to explore what's in hyperspace, and I'm like, cool, I feel that for sure. And then it's like, what is that? Is it? Oh my god.
Yeah.
Check it off on the Crusade Gets Unnecessarily Horny drinking game.
Yep.
That a listener proposed.
When that scene came up, they were talking about how they were like certain that it was going to get cut from the final episode, and they were laughing at Gary Cole almost breaking in the middle of the scene, like as he's doing these exaggerated like jostles thrusting, when the thing is humping the ship.
Yeah.
And then apparently when the scene cut, someone on the crew was like, "Who writes this shit?"
It was JMS in the back in his janitor outfit, like, who writes this crap?
And then he takes off his big mustache and he's like, "It wasn't me this time."
Not this time.
Not this time. It's fiction. We made it up. I didn't even want to say it that time, but you have to respond to quotes from that video with other quotes from the video.
You are so easy to get to say certain things because I know you're the things that set you off where you're like, Alan said half a joke, I need to finish
in a way, I'm a human soundboard. In a way, that's the case.
You're an if and then statement.
Yeah. Speaking of more Max, before we talk about other stuff from this episode, when they were watching the opening credits, Carrie started talking about that clip of the Dorina Max dance scene that I keep seeing and really wanting to see in an episode. And apparently,
Yep.
And apparently, what's the name of the guy who plays Max? I keep forgetting his name.
I also keep forgetting his name.
It's like a triple name.
David Allen
Brooks. Apparently, David Allen Brooks was really nervous about doing the dance scene. Carrie Dobrow's like a trained dancer, and he just wanted to like practice, so he booked private dance instruction time for the two of them.
Wow.
And the scene, as it was told to them, was supposed to be sort of like a tango scene. But then when they got the music was like kind of a waltz, but not, and also was really weird and bad. And the choreographer was like, yeah, or the dance instructor was like, I don't want to choreograph to this music. It's weird. Let's just like do some practice. So I thought that was very funny. And I'm excited to see what that scene even is.
What the context of them dancing is.
Yeah.
I'm really interested in like what they thought from the commentary, at least what you're able to garner about like what they thought about the show, and like did they think it was gonna go places, or did they feel like, or they knew it was canceled from the start?
It's hard to tell. They didn't talk about like when they found out really. Although what's cool about Janet Greek on this commentary is because she had directed so much on B5, you kind of get to hear her perspective on like going from B5 to Crusade and how she approached Crusade and the things that she wanted to be a little bit different. And she talked at the end of the commentary about how she was really bummed out that the show only had one season, because she had the perspective of like when we did B5 season 1, at the end of it, it was messy and there were problems and things that we didn't understand yet and things we had to figure out. But when you watch seasons 2 through 5, so much of those seasons call back to things that were set up in season 1.
Right.
So even though season 1 of B5 is like messy, it's full of really important setup and foundation for what's to come. And you can have this trust in JMS as a writer that like he had an idea of where things were going and he was setting something up. And so her take on it was like, I was just bummed out that we never got to see that, because like knowing him, I knew that he had a plan.
Right, exactly. He seems like the kind of writer who, like, you see it in like individual lines in some of these episodes where people talk about, you know, oh, I'm gonna go back to this thing in my life, and they refer to their past, or they refer to characters that we don't know yet, or we don't know who's important and who's gonna come back, and you can tell they're laying seeds.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I would say it maybe holds together a little less well than Babylon 5 does, just because of how disjointed it feels. But yeah, it is always a shame when you really are watching a fifth of a planned show.
Right. Yeah, and I don't know. Like you can't say with certainty that this show would have unfolded to be something as affecting and as effective as B5, but it certainly would have unfolded to be something much better than what we have.
Yes,
yeah,
definitely.
at least I think. So yeah, we can start talking about the content of the episode a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So, one of the early scenes that I liked, but thought was strange, was when Gideon is just hanging around and Darina walks into like the room with tables. I don't even think he was eating. He was just sitting in a room with tables. And he has some cards that he's shuffling all alone. He's like, yeah, I'll deal you in. And when I first saw the cards, I was like, oh man, those are normal cards. I wanted to see weird sci-fi cards. And then
I want like octagons. My thought was like, did somebody make these on Etsy? And then my second thought was, this show went for 13 episodes.
Well,
nobody cares enough about Crusade to make these on Etsy. I don't think so.
From the wide shot, they looked like actually normal, like bicycle cards to me. And
right.
Then when it cut in, I was like, oh, these have weird edges that would make them hard to use.
Right.
Ooh, these designs are kind of strangely medieval for some reason. I like these cards.
Furthering our theory that Crusade would maybe sometimes just be better as a fantasy
show, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And something that Fiona Avery was saying about this scene is that she enjoyed writing Matthew Gideon every chance that she... Matthew Gideon. The Excalibur. See, I'm a soundboard. That's right. You got me. She enjoyed writing him as a little bit off, because usually captain characters are super straight-laced. So any chance that she got to write a scene where he's like just being weird is fun, and it helps you understand who he is, and also leans into what Gary Cole is good at, because he's got such great comedic chops that it's just fun to watch him be strange. I mean, the scene was odd, and the music was just goofy, but all of that stuff was cool.
I agree. Other show, the only other show I can think of off the top of my head that doesn't have a traditional captain is Star Trek Discovery. Mm-hmm. And not only because the main character isn't a captain, but when they do have a captain, he is also a problem. Mm-hmm. He's like a whole thing. He's got a whole plot line. So the two games that are played in this episode, we have the card game between Darina and Gideon, and then Gideon by himself plays chess later, which is how you know he's the captain and he's a tactics man. I really actually like have another tab open right now that just says blue and white chess set, because I thought this chess set looked really fancy and I want to buy it.
Yeah.
It's very fancy, but he's playing against himself, just like, I guess it's supposed to show that he's thinking about stuff. She wants to help find Galen because he's one of the few people she trusts who isn't all about money or power. Mm-hmm. That's how I understood that whole exchange.
Yeah, she sees something in Galen that feels sincere, And she wants
He's not like other girls.
right. She wants to trust that exists somewhere, that someone is like real
Right.
out in these streets.
Out of these mean streets all where Mr. Mistopheles is doing magic. She says that, and that's the reference later, which is why I mentioned it. But something really intense that happens is, so Galen, his whole thing is that he wants them to go to the Well of Forever. He says it's going to help them answer the questions, and that becomes one of our underlying threads. It's like, what are all the questions? They ask him what is his own question, and it's just why, which I think is great.
Mm-hmm.
It's an existence question. It's similar to a shadow question. I think like an episode centered around questions, you're inevitably going to think about the shadow and Warlong questions, and his being why not only brings into like it brings into mind like questions of existence, but of magic, of like science, of all the things that make technomages what they are, which are science and magic,
right.
and love. I mean, as we learned from him later, like he has more on his mind than just those things, and finding where he belongs. He's the kind. It's kind of a circuitous question, with it being why, because it's just like, I have all. My question is, I have all the questions.
Yeah. And then I don't know. And then that leads to a bit at the end of the episode where he sort of narrates. He does the Scrubs closing narration of like, here's what everybody's question was, and here's the answer that they got, which I think was I liked it. I liked it. I thought I was gonna have some negative to say, but I'm gonna be less negative. Everybody,
you don't have to be less negative.
No, I will. I'll be less negative.
It's fun.
I liked it. It was a nice little frame to put on the episode,
right? Because it's what you want if you're gonna make this about questions. But so because he's so determined, and Gideon is like, this is dangerous. This is off of our charts. And as we continue, like, connect it back to our B plot, lo and behold, Crusade finally has an A and a B plot that actually like feel connected in a meaningful way.
They talked about that on the commentary. Not that it usually doesn't, but like, these are so meshed so well together, and I agree with them.
The B plot being that Matheson, after doing all of these unlicensed scans of people, is being interrogated and mind probed by a spooky man named Mr. Jones, which my weird brain is like, Indiana Jones 2. I love that, where the freaking short round is like, Mr. Jones.
My brain went to Counting Crows.
Is there a Mr. Oh, isn't there a Mr. Jones?
Mr. Jones and me.
Oh my god, I forgot that song exists.
Beautiful women is looking.
Every Counting Crows song sounds exactly the same.
Mr. Jones and me, which, by the way, is a reference to the Dylan song. Oh God, what's the Dylan song? No, I could have pulled this reference so fast, and then this wouldn't have been a whole thing that I have to look up, but now I'm embarrassed that I didn't remember that it was called Ballad of a Thin Man.
It's okay. It's okay.
It's not okay.
Forgiven.
I should have known.
Mr.
Thin Man. That's the reference that Counting Crows are making.
Counting Crows referencing Bob Dylan. You're referencing Counting Crows.
Revisited. I should have known.
Yeah. No. It's okay. You're valid. Listen. There's so much.
If you're gonna know any of the Dylan albums and the song names, you should know Highway 61 Revisited. It's like the one that you're supposed to know, and I just feel like I screwed up.
What music? What?
I screwed up. It's part
I'm done. Shut the fuck.
It's part of the canon.
This is what happens. It's part of the canon. Shut the front door. Okay. Shut the front door.
I'm done.
We didn't even talk about the fact that Dorina got a full hair redesign this episode spontaneously.
I didn't even notice.
Yeah, she went from white girl dreads to completely straightened hair.
I didn't register it at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Didn't they say something in the commentary about her eyes?
Yeah, and I didn't mean to get away from the Mr. Jones scene, which is like a very cool scene. So
we will get there. We'll get back to it. We'll get back to it.
About it.
Talking about Dorina's eyes, though.
But yeah, Carrie Dobro was talking about her prosthetics and stuff. And one thing that she was ribbing Woodward about was like she had to spend 3 hours every day in makeup to get the prosthetics on, but all he had to do was come in and get his head buffed And then
women in sci-fi.
and then, right, and then or just being an alien, right?
Or just yeah.
And then she said the interesting thing about aliens is that they don't have eyebrows, which was kind of a funny observation.
Yeah.
And then she mentioned that over the course of production, she had three different sets of contact lenses. So she had, I guess, the first set that they were going to use in A Call to Arms they didn't like, so she ended up having 2 different contacts in each eye, or not 2 in each eye, but 2 different contacts. And then at one point there were yellow ones that she had in Crusade, and then she got green ones or something. So I guess her eye color is also kind of changing all over the place, and we're not registering that either. It did look weird to me in this one that she had yellow, but maybe she's been having yellow and I just haven't noticed it.
Also, our order is broken, so who knows what we've seen already.
That's true.
But I'll keep an eye out for that in the future. But to pivot back to Mr. Jones, Mr. Jones is a guy from the Bureau of Telepath Integration. Everyone who comes from there is called Mr. Jones. This scene is really cool where Matheson is like telling Gideon about like, oh man, like I got in trouble because of rules, and then Gideon's like, the rules are stupid, and he's like, well, the rules are the only reason that I can work with you, and that's, you know, it's a sort of sacrifice that I have to make. That's fine. And then Gideon leaves and is like, well, I'll be here if you need me. Like, truly, I'm making light of it, but he truly does care about Matheson. Like, not it obviously as his crewmate.
Yeah, their relationship's really cool.
Yeah, but it's like it's very, very friendly and like understanding of each other, and he doesn't want to let other people mess with him, which loops around in the end in a really nice way. Yeah. But this scene is really goofed up by the fact that there's an extra in this whole part that's like, oh man, you gotta I don't know, man. Just you gotta do the thing. This is a guy who like could be saying one line quietly, but instead is like flubbing the line. I don't know if it's intentional or not.
Oh,
I couldn't stop hearing it.
I didn't notice.
Yeah, roll that back the next time you have your Crusade DVDs out, and it's hilarious.
It's just him, me, and the rules.
All right.
No, but
Good luck.
I think it's full reserve. But we're doing backup. Let's go ahead and deep break that.
They actually talked about the extras in the commentary.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a scene on the bridge where in the background, the extras are like doing something on one of the panels that in the background. And first of all, Peter Woodward is a very charming guy. He's funny. But the one thing that was like kind of a annoying thing that he did is that instead of saying actors, he says artists.
Oh my god.
Yeah. It's like,
does he make a point of it?
At first, it didn't seem like he did. He just, when he was talking about the guy who plays Mr. Jones, he called him an artist, and like it's so great to have like great guest artists. And I was like, okay, I guess that's just what he says. And then when he's talking about the extras, he's like, yeah, I don't even want to call them extras, like they're artists. And it's like, come on, Peter.
Oh my god,
what
Peter,
are you doing?
Peter.
And they're just gushing about how like the extras are so in it all the time. And then I don't remember who was saying it, but someone said that what they were writing on with like grease markers on the panels was their coffee orders in like letter code.
That's adorable.
Yes, that really enriches the fiction. That all those people are just like, yeah, I'll have a mocha, like no foam, skim milk.
I just ordered. This is very like upper middle class millennial of me, but I ordered from Starbucks on the app for the first time. And I did order on Dunkin' Donuts a while ago, but the thing with Starbucks is not only are there very brief rant. We have one episode to discuss. You're going to listen to this.
Yeah.
With Dunkin' Donuts, it's like, oh, I want sugar, I want cream, like whatever. I want this flavor shot. With Starbucks, there's like a million options.
Yeah, it's too much.
It's way too much. And I was curious. I was like, okay, now that I have this app, all my friends in college were always talking about their Starbucks stars. Like, oh my God, I got to get more stars. And I figured it was just a simple rewards program. Like, oh, you buy coffee through the app and pick it up through the app or pick it up in the store. And then you get points and you use those points to buy more coffee. That's like simple. The way the app works, at least currently, is you can order more types of things from the menu when you have more stars. It's like a level up system.
That is fucking nuts.
It's so weird, man.
That is crazy.
And I can pull it up while we talk, but I was looking at like all the stars things, and one of the higher up. Yeah. Here it is. Okay, so I have 27 stars right now.
Oh, no.
At 25, I gained the ability to customize my drink, so I can add an espresso dairy syrup.
Oh.
At 50 points, I can get a brewed hot coffee. I can't buy coffee. I don't think I can buy coffee through the app until I'm at 50 stars. And it's at 200. Yes, folks, 200 points that I can. Oh, you know what it is?
What is it?
I wonder if these ones are like you just get a handcrafted drink, and at like 100 you get a hot coffee.
Yeah, that makes way more sense.
Because at 200 you get a lunch sandwich, and I've ordered a lunch sandwich. So I'm like, wait, hold on.
Okay, so the fiction that you created, it's fiction. You made it up.
Yes. I think mine's way cooler. It's just like, no, dude, you have to order like 50 disgusting like caramel mocha fraps.
Now that we put it
only in small before you can even get it in
the world, I think we got to hold on to that one. As the fast food ordering app where you unlock things. Like you have to buy 10 single cheeseburgers before you can get a double cheeseburger. You have to
it's disgusting because it sounds like
burger tolerance.
It's disgusting because it sounds like it would work.
Oh, certainly
it would
work.
Let's
certainly.
But yeah, so the people are all ordering their cool coffee orders, and there's a funny extra. But the man that Matheson sees in the background is who we learn later is the titular Mr. Jones, not titular, but Mr. Jones himself.
Mm-hmm.
And he's mad at Matheson because he's going against the rules. I didn't get a lot out of this plot line other than the guy playing Mr. Jones is kind of intimidating.
Yeah, I thought it was going to have a third beat or something. Essentially, what it ended up being was this guy, first of all, the idea is so cool that this guy's whole job is he reads the minds of telepaths to make sure they're not breaking the rules. That is dope.
For sharks.
And so he's doing a deep scan of Matheson's mind.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like abusing his power a little bit and just scanning whatever the heck he wants. Because he can, and he finds out where they're going. He finds out some information about what they're looking for. So I thought that he would do something with that information, or it like matters that he stole it. And maybe it would if the show had lasted longer, and this Mr. Jones guy maybe would have become like a longer running villain.
Definitely.
But as of right now, it's just kind of like, okay, this is cool world building, and it's cool to see Daniel Day Kim getting stuff to do and acting. And then I like that the guy was like, oh, you've made a lot of mistakes along the way. So we know that there's something with Matheson where he's done some things he's not supposed to do. But then
he's not just our perfect telepath buddy.
Yeah, but then he goes to Gideon. He's like, Gideon, oh my God, he found out all this stuff. Oh, I'm so worried. Oh, never mind. It's not your problem. Bye. And that's it.
Oh, he does kind of just hand wave it, yeah?
Yeah, and then the guy's like, he's coming with me, and Gideon's like, screw you. No, he's not. And then he doesn't.
Yes, Mr. Jones is, that's the moment that's the payoff for their friendship in this episode, is that he's like, you... And not only that, but, so earlier in the episode, again, correct me if I misunderstood any of this, but Matheson can't go into space, even in a spacesuit, like to see the well or whatever.
I wasn't paying attention in that moment, so I don't know.
But basically, there's a reason why he's not able to go into a spacesuit. It has to do with like his telepathy range would be too high, and like he would have like too much power for a while.
Because it's in hyperspace.
Or exactly. I think that's right. Mm-hmm. So they're like, we can't take you down to the well, and we also can't let you see it from space because then Mr. Jones will notice, and you'll get in huge trouble with him. Mm-hmm. Once they boot Mr. Jones off of the ship, Gideon leaves a note in Matheson's office that's like, I did this for you or whatever. And then you have a really brief shot, but a nice shot of Matheson getting into an exosuit and looking out at the planet and going, beautiful.
That's cute.
And then he goes back. Yeah. I think it's like how the episode ends. It's definitely a cute moment.
This episode adds to the or no, maybe it's not. Is it in the other one that we learned that telepaths have like super smell?
I I think it's the episode. I think it's the other one.
Okay. We'll talk about.
But you
that
can talk about that. I mean,
No, we'll talk
I'm not likely gonna. Okay.
I'll bring it up next week.
Fabulous. Yeah, you were talking about how like they wanted to explore hyperspace, and it kind of made me think like, what's the equivalent in the fantasy setting of them going somewhere to hyperspace? And I guess it's like the deep blue sea, like deep underwater.
Yeah,
Because they're like,
yeah,
nobody
that
knows
makes
what's down
sense.
here. There's weird powers and magnetism, and we don't trust it.
Yeah,
But there's
and
like
like there's
magic
big
underneath it.
jellyfish that like have sex with your ship.
That too. Exactly that too.
Because they're doing a Fountain of Youth, at least type of thing. That
Mhm.
there's this place somewhere that has these magical properties, or something.
Yeah.
So that would be like a seafaring story, and I think that's what they're going for.
Right.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you can in a framework of a show like this, you can tell that kind of story even in space.
Mhm.
It works pretty well.
Yeah.
They get to the Well of Forever. Not the Well of Forever. The Well of Forever.
Mhm.
And Max is extremely excited because the people who are mineral scanning show that there are layers upon layers upon layers of the most precious metals of all time. And he's like, I can't wait.
Look, this is good for hyperspace stuff, and this is great for this, and there's some gold.
And this one's also gold. I love gold.
Yeah.
Eitherson just being the most greedy rich man. And then he's like, Darina, look. And she's like, yeah. Wow. Hey, have you actually looked at the well yet? And he's like, what? And she's like, have you looked at the thing with your eyes? That's not the money. You freaking Scrooge McDuck. Like, look at it. And she shows that it's a mausoleum. It's a memorial, basically.
Mm-hmm.
For people who died, and the mystery of this thing enticed them so much that most people who got here died. And now, having arrived on the well itself, Galen is intercepted by Gideon, who's like, "Why are you here? Are you gonna finally like tell me what the deal is?" And we get the reveal from Galen that the reason he's here is because when he was a young technomage, there was another technomage trainee named Isabel. And he said she was the best of us. She was amazing. She was intellectual. She challenged me. She convinced me. She inspired me to be better. And I also loved her to the breadth and depth that my soul can reach, which is how much I love Magellan. He promised. Anyways.
Move on. Keep going.
Yeah, moving
Keep
on.
talking about
Galen
the
does.
episode.
Galen promised her that he would eventually someday find the Well of Forever and bring her soul there to rest.
Mm-hmm.
And he says to Gideon, if you understand it all, then you will let me finish it. Gideon's like, I love Gary Cole's ability to play like, okay.
Yeah, sure.
Weird.
Why
Okay, we're going to turn around. And then, Galen quotes the Cymbeline poem, Fear No More the Heat of the Sun, that I started the episode with. And then he puts her like weird space ashes into the well.
Yeah.
Wow. And this is touching. It can't be understated again how good Peter Woodward's performance is. Like, not only quoting Shakespeare always makes people seem like good actors. That's kind of how that works.
Mm-hmm.
But you instantly believe this. I feel like you understand why he cares, why he's pushing so many people. Like, a lot of Galen's plots so far have been seeming like he's just the silly space British man who does things because they're dangerous and deadly. But actually he's doing it because he's like deeply flawed and wants to do well by people, you know?
Yeah, I didn't need him to have been in love, you know?
Yeah.
But it was nice. And it's a lot of really good development for his character.
I don't mean to just be me, but if the character of Isabel was just like a guy that he went to school with and they didn't textually imply that he was in love, I would have been fine with it, where he's just like, my best friend died at a young age and I wanted to do right by him. Like it you know. Yeah. It being love doesn't necessarily feel that much stronger.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be like his dad, like we learn like actually my dad died here.
Right. It's pretty easy to plug in a motivation into this scene.
Yeah. Woodward talked in the commentary about like he's from theater, really, that's where most of his acting background is.
Yeah.
And so he had to navigate a lot the question of like, do I do this really big? I always get told on screen like I'm being too theatery. And so he was wondering that with this monologue, like how big to play it. And I thought that he did pretty well. And then he was saying that he'd actually been in a production of Cymbeline in the UK a couple of years before he was on Crusade.
Oh,
and
cool.
when he was in that production, he was struck by like the beauty of that particular section. And so for it to show up again was kind of a interesting coincidence.
It is really, really amazing that Shakespeare has put out so much work that I'm still learning about new Shakespeare plays all the time.
Right.
I did not know about Cymbeline before looking into this episode. But it's another one of those like innocence, jealousy plays, it looks like.
Right. He said to Fiona Avery, it's very brave for any writer to quote Shakespeare.
Right.
Because he was like, because people could just say like, oh, I like the Shakespeare part, but the rest wasn't very good.
Right. You're immediately putting yourself on, you're trying to say like this the rest of this episode is on par with somebody literally quoting one of the most prolific writers, period.
They also in this scene had a really interesting conversation. There were a few moments where they were talking about like just what does it mean to create sci-fi, and Janet Greek has directed a lot of science fiction, so she sort of spoke about like as a director it allows her when she does sci-fi to be more creative about how to position the camera and how to direct actors and things like that. And then they were talking about like in a sense what draws people to sci-fi and what makes it so exciting to write it and to act it is that it like frees you to express very pure, genuine human emotion.
Yeah.
Like sci-fi is not really, we're not watching Mad Men here where everyone's like all buttoned up and like there are layers of this implies this, but that, whatever. Like people are really openly feeling things in a way that you'd have to like make it a little bit more jaded if it was set in the real world.
Or I guess like throw on layers of artifice or tone and like aesthetic that sci-fi kind of can, and its best, allow you to push past, because instead of it being about the feeling, it's about the questions and the answers, and that's like where it succeeds. Yeah, that's a great moment from her, or a little bit of commentary.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the way the episode wraps up, like we said, Gideon yells at Mr. Jones and says, "I'm going to keep Matheson here." Then he goes on the elliptical, and he's all sweaty. We get sweaty Gary Cole, and Galen is talking to him while he's on the elliptical, and he's like, "Thank you for doing that for me. I appreciate it. Someday, hopefully, we'll be able to forgive each other for the crime." And he's like, "Well, for what crime?" And he's like, "Being alive," which can read as like kind of emo if you don't like understand Galen's whole thing of like, why is being alive a crime? But it seems, I don't know, it's one of those like philosophical things that Galen just says that is meant to be chewed on a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
And then last moment, he drops what everybody's questions were. We get that Max's question was like, what is there out there in the world that I can't have? And as he's telling the computer in his room, like, download the coordinates to the well so that I can come here later, Galen presumably does some Technomate stuff and erases every single one of his records. And so he's left with nothing. Matheson could have had his questions answered, but didn't, because he didn't receive the answer. Gideon was literally right there in the right place at the right time, but he didn't listen, and that's going to be a problem for him in the future. Which, that is another moment where I was like, are they seeding something? Because Galen is talking about like, oh, Matheson like was with me at the well, and he had like the chance to get all of his questions, but instead he chose to just leave and not like explore that. And then finally, Dorina, who's hearing this whole dialogue part of this dialogue, says, "What about me?" And then he does this like fire hologram in his hand.
I was spying on you.
I have my $10 spy camera from Walmart that I bought, and I put it in all of the rooms. And it's the scene where she's like, "I want Galen to be alive," and he's like, "Yeah, you're all right, girl." Basically. Do you have any stray notes from the commentary or from your own notes?
Oh yeah, I got a bunch.
Tell me them.
I got a bunch. So, let's see. Let me just scroll back to the top and I'll kind of scan through here. There were some interesting notes that Janet Greek had to share about like directing in the confines of this set. So she talked in the opening sequence about how like the hallway is pretty thin, and so it was hard to maneuver the camera around Daniel Day Kim and Gary Cole when they were having their conversation at the beginning. And then there was a conversation later about the way that the bridge set is structured and how like the kind of middle part with the periscope can't be moved. So it was hard to shoot scenes in the bridge because on a lot of sets, you know, you can just wheel the big part out of the way and shoot the scene that you need to shoot. But with this set, she had to figure out like, okay, that can't move. That's like built into the floor or whatever. So I have to figure out how to get around it. So I thought that was cool. Oh, we didn't talk about in the Dorina Galen scene, his like little sit maneuver that he does, the little physical comedy thing.
Remind me?
Where he like goes to sit on one of her low chairs and he kind of has to like wiggle and lean a little bit. And Woodward was talking about how he did that because his pants, he was wearing leather pants that were extremely tight. And then Janet Greek was like, you asked for them to be that tight.
King.
And then he was the one who came up with that little physical comedy bit, which I thought was funny.
Is this the end of the episode? I kind of want to skim to find this.
It's
like
not,
in their final
it's not at the
conversation?
end. No. It's like their first scene together in the episode in her room where like everything's kind of low to the floor.
I gotcha.
Yeah, so there's that. Let's see. Oh, another interesting directing thing that Greek talked about was how part of what made it tricky to shoot on the B5 set sometimes is that there were a lot of different levels in some of the spaces and like stairs, particularly if you remember on the bridge in B5, there's the top part and then you go down the stairs to go to all the computers and stuff.
Right, yeah.
And when there's stairs, it makes it hard to do like tracking shots because you can't use a dolly on stairs. And it's expensive to use like a handheld Steadicam. So it was a request that she made to make sure that the bridge set in Crusade was flat so that you could wheel around it and do whatever it is you wanted to do.
Yeah, it feels flatter, like overall.
Yeah, which makes it look less cool, but allows for the camera to do more interesting things. So that's the trade-off, yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah. Woodward calls actors artists. That's still a thing. There was some conversation about like how the direction needs to reflect the writing. And Fiona Avery was talking about how she had been taking some directing classes to actually understand writing better, which is interesting. And then Janet Greek was saying like the way that she intentionally blocked the Gideon Galen fighting scene was that they walked off in directly opposite directions because that reflected how deeply divided they were over what they were arguing about.
Right.
Sorry,
I'm like, these are all things that I'm like, I need to watch this commentary. You know?
Yeah, I think it's good to watch.
And it's the only other one that we get, tragically, for Crusade or for B5. Or I mean, there might have been stuff for B5 that we missed, but for the Crusade, these are the only two. Is the first one that we did, and then this one.
Yeah, and then something else about that particular scene that Fiona Avery was saying is that she described the Gideon Galen relationship as a family relationship, where they're like really devoted to each other.
Yeah,
they're really
just call them boyfriends. I mean, you're allowed to, but it's fine.
They're really devoted to each other, but then they have like intense power struggles. Oh, I forgot to mention that Dobro, when she was talking about gadgets being in the background, she called them gadgets. instead of gadgets, which is funny.
I like
And
it.
that's that's it. There's a lot of it's a fun commentary. I kind of just spoiled all of it, but it's still fun to listen to their conversation.
Yeah, I'd still like to hear it, and just to hear Peter Woodward be funny. Indeed. Well, Magellan, that's what we got for this episode. We hope people enjoyed our single episode discussion. There is an alternate Chats universe where we are yet another one episode a week discussion podcast. It's doable. Most of the shows we do, I wouldn't want to do it. I like challenging ourselves, but this was a good kind of one-off thing to do, and an episode that I think deserved it somewhat. It's a thinkier episode and had quite a lot going on.
Yeah, for sure.
But for next week, we are reverting back to the Crusade watch order. So we're going to be watching Visitors from Down the Street, which we have both watched, but we're going to be discussing. So if you want to spoil it in emails or whatever, feel free to. We both watched it. I'm probably going to rewatch it at some point soon just to get better notes, because I had to. I'll talk about my watching experience with it, but it's not the way it was meant to be watched. That's, as before, JMS-E5 broadcast episode 12 and disc 3 on your DVDs. We're going to be having a guest for that, and we're going to be doing something a little special for the second half. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to say, I'm not going to say what it is. How about that? Let's give them a surprise.
Yeah.
The second half of that episode is not going to just be that. It's not just going to be that one single episode discussion, and it's not going to be the next Crusade episode. It's going to be Visitors from Down the Street paired with something else. You can probably guess what it is. But yeah, so we'll be having our guest on for that, and it'll be a wonderful, wonderful time. Magellan,
yes.
You don't have to tell me what we're watching next week, but can you tell me where people can find us on the internet?
I would love to. So you can find us online in a number of different capacities. If you'd like to get in contact with the show, to send your questions, your comments, your suggestions for things that you would like us to bring up on the show. If you have suggestions for our bonus content, which I'll talk about in a little bit, you can email us at chatspod@gmail.com. That's CHATZPOD@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with us and follow us on Twitter, Chatspod, @Chatspod on Twitter. And if you would like to support the show, which we would be very grateful for, you can head on over to patreon.com/chatspod and back us at one of 3 different tiers. $1 gets you access to a monthly movie commentary chats. And our commentary for the month of January is Kangaroo Jack. So it's not out yet, but it'll be out within the next, week or 2 weeks or something like that. We're really looking forward to that one. $3 a month, you get access to twice a month the Hangout Show Chats Nights, where we just talk about whatever we feel like. And then $5 a month, you get all of that stuff plus pilot chats, where twice a month we pilot shows that we might want to cover in the main show. We just yesterday, when you're listening to this, released a pilot chats episode where we piloted Studio 60 on the Sunset Strip, getting back into our Aaron Sorkin groove, and that was a delight. So,
yeah, I think one of our best pilot chats is
super fun.
Indeedy.
Yeah, Alan, let's talk about. Do you have a chatsum for the people?
Oh boy, I don't.
Okay.
Can you give me yours while I think of mine?
So my chatsum for this week, if you've been catching this, and there's an ongoing TV event that's happening, which is the Jeopardy Greatest of All Time tournament. So it's Ken Jennings and Brad Rutter and the new guy James Holhauser. The winningest people who've been on Jeopardy in a number of different ways that winningness means are going against each other to see who's the very best of the best. And I haven't been watching it yet. I've been catching clips of it here and there, and I'm excited to watch it this week. And I've also just been watching Jeopardy on Netflix, which is a delight. So that's my rec.
Have you chat some Jeopardy before?
Can you check? I think
I'm gonna let you do. I'm gonna let you.
This is a different Jeopardy thing.
Exactly. That's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I was just, as I was hearing it, I was like, I think I've heard you tell me why Jeopardy is good.
Yeah, I heard myself doing it also.
I'm going to Control F Jeopardy in the master chat
Yeah, could you do
Here
that
it comes.
real quick?
Geopardy. Yep. So, wait. Yep.
Jeopardy on Netflix, right?
Chatzylon 5, Episode 11, Jeopardy Tournament of Champions and Battle of the Decades on Netflix, and you really get a sense of how Alex Trebek is kind of a jerk and kind of sexist. The live audience is old and milquetoast, and everyone says the answers out loud.
That's funny.
Too funny.
Yeah.
But yeah. I have a Chatsum this week.
Yeah, what do you got?
I found it.
What do you got?
I found it, mate. We were talking about Peter Woodward being British, and I'm trying to branch out my musical taste this year, as I always am. So I've been getting into a little bit of British rap, folks. I did it. I've fallen down another hole. British rap is really great because when you start as an American, you listen to British rap and you're like, I don't understand anything they're saying. I mean, you're an American, so you're saying, I don't understand it. They got funny accents, and you don't like, it doesn't make any sense. And I don't know. I just like pulled up Genius for a couple of albums I was listening to, and I was like, oh, it's not that complicated. Like, their accent isn't imparsible. It's just that they talk fast like other rappers do, and that's fine. But their lyrics are really great, and some of the production is like on another level good. Mm-hmm. So a couple of albums I would recommend. The latest by Stormzy, who's one of the bigger British rappers. Skepta's latest album. I'm not remembering names because I kind of just went down a hole of like a lot of different artists. Little Sims has featured on and has herself done a lot of great work. And then my personal favorite, Dave, he just goes by the mononym Dave, has an album from, I believe, last year called Psychodrama that's really good and has a good like framing device. And Dave does like a lot of cool socially conscious stuff. Like, he has a song that's a direct spoken letter to David Cameron. Mm-hmm. And Stormzy obviously has like a song that got him very famous and in a lot of trouble. That's about how much he hates what's his face, Boris Johnson. So mm-hmm. We always forget, I think, as people from the U.S. that the UK is important and it's right across the water and they speak the same language that we do. Like, I don't know. I just myself, like, when we watched what's the superhero show, Misfits, I was like, oh yeah, the UK, and like, I don't know, it's bad that my brain does that, so I try to be more worldly, and that's why I was like, oh, maybe, like, what's up with British rap? Someone was telling me it's good, like, I'll give it a shot, and like, yeah, this stuff really is really cool. So expand those musical tastes, check out some artists you haven't heard before.
Great.
Fabulous. Well, that, dear listener, is going to do it. Thank you as always to Magellan for being the rock to my hard place.
I really don't know what to say in response.
That's the right thing to say. And thank you, dear, sweet, wonderful listener, for listening to this episode of Chatzylon 5. Peace.